appreciate your acceptance, your acknowledgement for our first opener of the gate today, Brother Robert Morningsky.
Thank you. Those were awfully kind words. Thank you. I did have the great honor and the privilege of spending some time on the air with Brother Ronnie here. It was excellent, and conversations with him, Kevin, and some other people in Atlanta said, you know what, I have an opportunity to speak to a group of people that are not the norm for my conferences. Oftentimes I go to gatherings and, for lack of a better term, these are civilized experts, people who know the truth of the world. And I find that if you don't tell them what they want to hear, you don't go back. So last night was interesting. I don't know if any of you were there. I got a chance to remove my headband, and we closed the event officially early. Then I got a chance to talk. And this morning, what I would like to do to start with, because of some of the words that were said last night and again this morning, why I am a renegade, why I use the term nobody. I am a full-blood Native American, Hopi and Apache. Hopi on my mother's side, Apache on my father's side. Shortly after I was born, my real father was killed in an accident. My mother, who was caught between two worlds, actually left me behind on the reservation in the care of my two grandfathers. Now that may sound cold, but I understand the circumstances. My Hopi grandfather had the status and the title of storyteller. Now, that is not someone who merely entertains children or keeps people alive at a party. A storyteller is the interpreter of prophecy. A storyteller is the one who holds the ancient knowledge and passes it on. So storytelling is about the future. It's about the ancient ways and the prophecies that link the two. That was my mother's side. On my father's side, I came from a society of ancestors who were dreamers. They were dancers. In the Apache world, the dream is more real than what we call the real world. You are really yourself in your dreams. Here, this is the illusion. This is where you have to pretend when you go to work that you're this person, or if you're across the counter from a customer, then they're always right, or if you meet somebody who has a position of authority or a badge, then you've got to do certain things. That's not the real you. When you go home and you fall asleep and you're dreaming you're back at work and you kick that customer's butt, or you stand up and you tell your boss, hey, I know more than you do, or you rip that badge of authority and stomp on it and get in your car and drive away without penalty, that's the real you. So I came from two bloodlines, one Hopi and one Apache. And that meant if I fulfilled my position, I would have to have acted in a certain way. The Hopi said I could not participate in Apache ritual. The Apache said I could not follow Hopi way. The both of them said I could not follow the way of Wasichu. Wasichu is the Caucasian civilized expert who knows everything. I could not share with Aborigines in Australia. If I fulfilled my position in the society. And at that point I said, no, this is wrong. I'm not going to do that. Am I supposed to believe that only the Hopi have the truth, or only the Apache have the truth, or only Wasichu has the truth? So I said no, and I was immediately ostracized. I was stripped of titles. I was stripped of honors. I was not permitted to participate fully with any sort of recognition. And I have to tell you, I don't know if you, and I hope you never get in that position in one regard, because when your elders look at you and they strip you and they call you kahopi, which means you're no longer one of us, that hurts. And it was a curse, I thought. It was also a blessing. Because now I can share with any tribe. I've had the good fortune of working with Encyclopedia Britannica as a storyteller for the 7 nations. I have had the opportunity to go to Australia and work with the elders and participate in their ceremonies, corroborees, and dances down there. I have gone to New Zealand to participate in the marae with the Māori people. I have had opportunities I could not have had I remained a citizen, a productive member of the society. So I'm lucky, because I don't have to worry about my image. I don't have to care what the elders think or what the experts say I should do. And my grandfather, my Apache grandfather, was very instrumental. I want to share just a moment of this because I hope it helps. My grandfather, you have to understand that in Arizona, we became a state in 1912. I had granduncles, I had relatives long ago in the 20s who were still in the hills taking pot shots at soldiers and raiding some of the ranches in Arizona. I have living ancestors who did just that. So some of our rituals and our ceremonies and dances, they're more intact than anywhere else in the United States because we were the last ones to give in. Yes, we got some of the crappiest land, but at the same time, we've still got who we were. Here's the fascinating part about being Apache. In the Apache world, and I'm sure in some movies you've seen it, please don't believe everything that you see in the movies. They're not real. They just don't work. Richard Harris, what's that one where they hang him from the, what is it? Man Called Horse. Did you notice in that movie, you know what I'm talking about, where what they do is they pierce the breast muscles with an antler horn. And then they tie rope around the antler horn, throw it over the uppermost beam in the sweat lodge, and then they pull you up so that you're several feet above the ground. What didn't come through in the movie is that is the way to have a vision. And the warrior who is undergoing this has to literally bounce up and down on the rope until the muscles tear. He has to do that. If he's not successful, a shaman or his sponsor will come up and hang on his legs and start bouncing up and down. You have to tear the muscles, and in that pain came the vision. Well, I don't believe they showed Richard Harris actually falling to the ground, but he would have had his breast completely torn open. That was the practice of one tribe only. They were called the Yellow Hand Sioux. A lot of people think, oh, all you Indians is... No. Did you notice in the movie how Richard Harris would go around trying to get other people to help the Yellow Hand Sioux? Historically, that character existed, and what he tried to do was to get other people to join the Yellow Hand Sioux tribe. And so there were some lone warriors, some renegades that said, okay, now this is cool, I can hang with you guys. What's the deal? What do I got to do? Then he explained the vision quest, where you hang by the breast with the antler horns and the rope and they pull and you got to jump up and down till you rip your breast open. And they said, well, thanks, I think I'll go see what's going down in Arizona. The Yellow Hand Sioux were the only ones who practiced that type of vision quest. The women would make cuts on their forearms and peel the skin off so that they could have their visions. The Yellow Hand Sioux died out because nobody wanted to join. There were other ways of having visions. But what was interesting in the movie, and what has happened in, what's Kevin Costner's Dances with Wolves. Geronimo. Several of the movies are now making this point. And the point is, no man speaks for another. You are independent warriors. In my family, in the Apache world, if half of the tribe decided to go to war with the Mexicans and the other half decided to stay home, one half went, the other stayed. There was no animosity, no arguing. If one man out of 100 decided to declare war on the soldiers at the fort, he went on his way. There was no animosity. There was no politics. No man speaks for another. In the Apache world, we stress that even more. As a 5-year-old, as a 6-year-old, I had to undergo the following test. Now, you do this today, and it's going to be labeled child abuse. As a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, you are taught to take a mouthful of water that you can't swallow. My grandfather said, take the water, don't swallow, and then go touch that tree over there on that hill. You have to run out, touch the tree, run back, spit the water out to prove that you have accomplished the task. I did that. That tree was, I don't know, maybe a mile away. I came back, I did it, spit the water out. I was so proud. Wrong tree. And he said, not that one, that one. That tree was 6 miles away. Now imagine this. Try it at home when you get a chance. Take a mouthful of water and run 6 miles, touch the tree, don't swallow, run back. Apache kids do that all the time. Well, did that. Now we're becoming civilized. Now they got a guy to score 60,000 on Mario's Nintendo. You are taught to run. You are taught to hunt at night. Once a month, every single young male and female after the age of 5 or 6 had to get on a horse. They had to ride all night long. They could not sleep. They were given a task to go out, bring something back, and they had to do what we now call overnighters. No sleep, 1 night a month. You're taught to do the impossible. You are taught to listen to dreams, and in many cases, as a dream begins to unfold, as the speaker tells you the dream, you should see and be able to describe the room. You should be able to describe the next step and the person sitting in that room. We do not believe in the impossible. We do it only because it's real. The impossible does not exist. What's impossible is what exists in your mind and your heart. But we do it as individuals. Many people think that the Apache banded together. We had one leader, Geronimo, Mangas Coloradas, Cochise, any number of chiefs who would lead their warriors to victory. That is not correct. We had no chiefs. That is not common to Native Americans. In Native America, for example, in this room, perhaps there is one person who is very, very skilled at negotiations. On the day that we need to negotiate with another tribe, that person steps forward and is the chief for that single event. The man who is best at the hunt is then chief for that single event. In other words, there was a chief for every single aspect of life. There was not one chief. You have a chief of war, a chief of negotiations, a chief of the hunt, a chief of whatever needed. And it was not necessarily male or female. We had no one group leader chief. Cochise and Geronimo were never the chief of the entire tribe. They were war leaders or negotiation leaders. So in this room, were we a tribe, and let's say we got to find us the best pizza in Atlanta. I don't know who knows Atlanta best and has tried all the pizza parlors, but if that's the case, you're the chief for the day. The chief is the person who can accomplish best the task at hand. Then, those who would best assist in that event, be it the hunt, be it the negotiations, would accompany that individual. The rest of the tribe sits down and says, all right, who's going to be the best speaker for the day? Who's going to do the negotiations? Let's get Mr. Chief Shabazz. He's going to be our negotiator. He's going to be our talker. Who's going to negotiate with the Ford and the Settlers and get us good, heavy wampum for our beadwork? All right, let's get Kevin Jackson. He's good at this. He's serious. Let's get the right person for the job. You have extraordinary speakers. Oh, I looked at the roster. Woof. That's an old Apache word, by the way. Woof. You have some extraordinary speakers. You have some extraordinary leaders. You have some people who head up groups who can make a difference. But in the Apache world, in my world, I can't participate in that because of the way I was raised. Now, I'm not denigrating or putting anybody down. What I am saying is, this is the way I was raised, and this is the Apache way. Kevin Jackson, take the main body. Take them to war. Any one of the speakers that were here, take them into the fray. Take and unite them. Make them stand together, shoulder to shoulder, and walk in and confront those that are stripping you or taking away your honor and your integrity. Do that. But you need scouts. You need a renegade off in the corner, operating and functioning for the sake of the body, but on his own. They are free to move around and will not be noticed. They will blend into the night. They will disappear in the daylight. You don't have to worry about supplies, food, and water for them. They will succeed. It takes nothing to allow one man to sneak through the mountains and the forests. But it takes considerable effort to get a main body. You got to feed them all. You got to keep them comfortable. You got to give them water, and you got to keep their spirits up. So in the Apache world, we dedicate ourselves to being the nobodies. The guy that's out there who's not part of the main body, and he appears and he disappears at will. He's the one, when he sees a group of 12 soldiers, maybe there's only 6, he'll go in the middle of the night, do something to PO them, and then walk away, sneak away. It's those little things that allow the main body to succeed. I will not identify with a society or a group. I am proud of who I am, but I will not do anything on behalf of the Hopi. I will do nothing on behalf of the Apache. I am not their representative or their spokesperson. But if I believe in their direction, you betcha I'm out there trying everything I can do to make it easier. The problem is the truth. Sometimes we think the truth is what we believe in, what we want to believe in. I got to tell you something, truth hurts. Because sometimes, have you ever, honest question, have you ever listened to one of the speakers and you believe in this person, he's really cool, and he's making a statement, or she's making a good point, but then they make that one statement that's like, there's something wrong with that one. But if you're going to stay in the group, you got to stick with that. You got to go with the leader's direction. As a renegade, I don't have to. I can disagree, and I'm not going to in any way take away from the leader. But I now have the freedom to go out there and do what I want to do and what I believe in. Last night, at the end of the official presentation, I offered a revelation, something that apparently disturbed at least two people who came up and mentioned it afterwards. I am full-blood Hopi. Well, I'm sorry. My mother was full-blood Hopi. I'm half Hopi. And the elders said, the storytellers, this is the prophecy of the return of Bahana, the Messiah, the Savior, the man who comes back and he restores the Hopi people to their proper place. He is the equivalent of the Osiris, the Buddhas, the Maitreyas, the Jesus, all these figures who are going to come back. He's our version. And I was proud. Wow, Hopi, where you're coming back to help us regain where we once were. Bahana. And I just marveled. So I went out to the prophecy stone. I wanted to see it. I wanted to believe in it. I wanted to touch it. I wanted to know that this was real and it wasn't something that somebody made up just to keep me happy. And I touched the prophecy stone and I came back. And then I heard my elders talking. It wasn't the same stone. It wasn't the same prophecy. I said, whoa, I'm a kid. I understand. But excuse me, grandfather, have I a right to ask a question? Yes, you do. Grandfather, why do you say the stone says this when the stone says something else? Well, you see, we have to, and because it's the way, and we have to stand united. And what it came down to is that in order to have the Hopi people retain their status, their grants, their position with the American government, the Hopi elders were willing to twist the prophecy ever so slightly to appease Wasichu. We sold out. And you have no idea how much that hurt. One of my elders sold us out. There have been people who have struggled and died for a cause, and others step up behind them, pick up the banner, and then it seems like they lost the fire, or they have to give in a little bit in order to hang with the rest. And I understand that. I understand that the Hopi people are probably better off because they said, okay, Wasichu played a role in the coming of the Messiah, that perhaps if we allow them to think our Messiah is white-skinned, that, we'll get another grant. And we'll get some utilities. Boy, we succeeded just recently in getting satellite TV on the reservation. You have no idea. Oraibi, the oldest village in the United States, hundreds and hundreds of years old, the oldest continuously lived in settlement in the United States, satellite dish on the roof. I can't go back to that stuff. I can't do that. So my elders sold out. I understand it. I just won't play the game. I ain't going to sell out. Just not going to do that. When you listen to a speaker, to a leader, to a person who is intelligent, who is fiery, who has integrity, remember that person speaks for themselves, and if you agree, join him, join her, shoulder to shoulder, not as a follower, shoulder to shoulder, and that you have a right to say and express and question everything that you confront. Accept nothing, challenge everything, question everyone. I hope that makes sense. If you are a nobody, you can do anything. You don't have to worry about that title. You don't have to worry about whether you got a degree or not. You don't have to worry about your image. You don't have to worry because you're an Egyptologist. You can't go over there and examine it yourself and come up with your own perspective. It doesn't matter. Please don't get caught up in titles and diplomas and societies and certificates. That does not identify who you are. It's what you do. It's what you feel. It's your fire. In the Apache world, we call it ko. Your ko. You put 3 or 4 different fires, each pulling in different directions. The heat is greater than putting 3 fires together, all going in the same direction. You understand the concept here? Pull in different directions. Work together, but you'll heat more. You'll affect the universe if individuals work together instead of a group working together. I hope that makes sense. Because I'll tell you something. I'm sure you can understand where I'm coming here, but my people had bad immigration laws. We let anybody come across here. If we'd had good immigration laws, at any rate, do not allow people with great charisma, intelligence, and charm to take away from you the fact that you are a warrior. Work with, stand shoulder to shoulder, and never surrender your identity. That's more critical than anything. Only one person was given the job of being you. You got it. Do it. Very quickly. How'd that sound? Anybody want to question? You want to challenge it? Ask a question? Because I want to talk about the Messiah text, about what the old texts in Egypt, the Bible, what they say, what we should be looking for. And I have to tell you something that I found out when the textbooks were lying about the Apaches and they were lying about the Hopi and they were lying about Indians, I figured they got to be lying about other stuff. They lied about George Washington. They lied about Benjamin Franklin. They lied about just about everything. It's the guys that won the war that wrote the history books. By the way, excuse me, I'll give you a chance here just a second. Juanita makes an excellent comment here. How is it that Native Africans and Native Americans lost the throne of their world? How is that? Is it because we weren't so great? I agree with what he said. It's because we forgot who we were. Now, how do you forget who you are? Well, you forget in part by surrendering part of your power. Women will often surrender their power to a mate. All right, dear, I'll go get the beer. Men often surrender their power to bosses. Yes, sir, I'll go do that right away. As a group, we surrender our power to politicians and presidents and mayors and elders, and it's okay, you can make the decision for me. And after a while, we forget we can make the choices too. You know that you have a choice not to pay taxes? Do you know that you have choices you can make legally? So, why did we forget? Now this is going to sound really, really odd, but let me tell you, my family and I travel all over the world. We go to university libraries, our book stacks are we can't keep up with the text. Everybody in my family, okay, here's some books, you read it, tell me if I need to take a look at it. They bring me their notes or we talk about it, and we start putting together this history. And a few years ago, in 1991, in Australia, I began to talk about the hidden history of our planet. And here's something funny. What if I told you that the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Babylonians, the ancient Sumerians all told a story about how long ago some star beings came to this little rock, this little place. And they landed here and they began to take over They taught us to become star beings. The knowledge that we have, the drumming, the feathers, the dancing, the rituals, the ceremony, and much of what we feel came to us from star beings. That's the message in these ancient texts. But they also tell us something else. The texts tell us that these star beings, now you may call them gods, divine beings, extraterrestrials, aliens, whatever you want to call them. When humankind was getting too close to being godlike, they decided to confuse humankind. You know the story of the Tower of Babel. There are similar stories in other cosmologies around the globe. But the gods, the star beings, did one thing that has doomed us and works against us, but we need to know this. Clearly, they tell us that the star beings removed our memories of who we were, that we had star being blood in us, that we had the blood of warriors, that we had the power and the magic of the dance. The ancient texts tell us we forgot. Now, that's an extraordinary claim. Is there any proof of this? How can you show that that ever happened? Actually, believe it or not, there really is truth. We started last night to talk about the human brain. Very quickly, let me review this. Scientists have started to count the number of nerve endings on the human body. Some of the first counts said that there were approximately 40 million inputs into the human brain. That if you counted all the nerves in your fingertips, your eyes, your ears, your nose, if you put them all together, you get about 40 million pieces of information every single second. And they all go rushing up the nerves and through the body, and they get to the brain where they get processed. But they found something extraordinary. You have, every human being has the capability of seeing 100,000 different shades of the rainbow. You have the ability to distinguish almost 1,000 different reds, 1,000 different blues. But they found that the human brain picks the one blue that you like and it sticks with it. There's a kind of a turquoise blue shirt back there. In the Hopi world, as a matter of fact, there's only one word for blue and green. Sakwap. The grass is sakwap. The sky is sakwap. The ring, the stone in my ring is sakwap. We have one word. But, for instance, I see a blue shirt. My brain sees 1,000 different shades of blue in that shirt. My brain picks one. It picks the color that I grew up with that I like. There's a red shirt. My brain picks the red I like and that I've had experience with. That to me is the most pleasant one. It goes through 1,000 different reds, picks the one in the middle, that's the red I see. Shaka takes a look at the red. Shabazz, others, you take a look. Do you know that we all do not see the same red in that shirt or the same yellow or the same blue? Our brain picks the color it likes. And it throws out 999 other shades of red which are probably in that shirt, but the brain says, no, that's too much. Our brain keeps 40 signals out of 40 million. You, right now, have the capability of hearing every conversation in that hallway. You can hear the conversations in the back room there and here. You can hear the whispers in the back row. It's coming in. But your brain says, no, I'm just going to focus on this one signal. And maybe you hear the crashing over here, and maybe you hear a slight chatter in the hallway. But do you know that your brain is capable of listening to all those conversations simultaneously? But your brain focuses on one. The theory of evolution The science of evolution is very clear. It does not tell us where human beings came from. It only tells us that we can adapt. For example, if everybody in the world for the next 1,000 years started to not use their left arm, the thing just, that's it, we're never going to use our left arm again. In probably 1,000 years, the human being race would never have a left arm. It would shrivel up and disappear. Evolution says if you don't use it, you lose it. Now, let's say that the scientists are right, and I agree, I've seen the data and we've seen the studies. You get 40 million pieces of information, but you only work with 40. Why? If that's true, do you know that human evolution says that your brain would shrink, it would shrivel up, and it would be gone? It wouldn't be there. If you have the ability to see 1,000 shades of red, but you're only using one because that's all your brain's going to handle, why do we have 999 more? Evolution says it should be gone. If you have the capability of hearing all these conversations, why only one? I'll tell you why. Because the ancient texts are really clear. Star beings, gods, extraterrestrials, shut the brain off. We have that ability. Last night, I started to talk about shamans, about the definition of shaman, what shamanism is, but the key to shamanism is this. A shaman or a shamaness moves in that world that the average person doesn't see. A true shamaness would look at that shirt and would see all kinds of reds in there, all kinds of blues. They see what the rest of us don't. That's what shamanism is, working in the unseen, unheard, unknown world. Does that mean that we can't? Absolutely not. Instead of working on only 40 pieces of information, we can learn to work on 60, 70, 80, or 100 bits of information. So, you have to know this. Your worst enemy is your brain. If your brain wants to see, hear certain conversations, that's exactly what it's going to see and hear. You have to give up your agenda. You have to give up your beliefs. In order to see the truth, whatever it might be, you must give up the agenda. All right? That's first key. 2, accept nothing. Challenge everyone. Question everything. You will have some... Wow, you got a good lineup. You're going to have some good speakers. Now suppose they make a statement. I've made a statement. Challenge it. Where'd you get that? How'd you find out? How do you know? If it's true, it's going to stand up to the test. It's going to stand up to the examination. If it's not, it won't. A good speaker needs more than claims. He needs to back it up. So, and I don't mean to speak for the other speakers, the other people who are here, but you know what? I want everybody to challenge everything I say and question it. I want you to check it out and make sure that I'm right, and if I'm not, tell me, because if I'm wrong, my work has to get corrected. I really don't care if you find a mistake. What I care of is if you don't tell me. I want to know. I want to know where that came from. I have the distinct honor and privilege of being the first person in recorded history to climb to the top of the Great Pyramid and perform an honoring dance for the ancient ones. I went up there and it's like every grandfather, every grandmother, all the ancestors were there. And I got to do this not because I was Hopi or Apache or American or a member of any group or society. I was able to go up there because I was nobody. Nobody